Hey, welcome everybody to this special, this special presentation of a Podcast Editor Academy live stream. We're doing this with Castmagic tonight. We've got Greg Wasserman. He's in the back room. I'll bring him in just a minute. Just want to talk to you guys, let you know this is exciting for me because I really do enjoy what AI is doing for us to make our jobs easier. A lot of people are worried about it taking people's jobs away. But I can tell you from using some of these tools myself, I have seen how my workflow has been, we'll just say, expedited. I can do things a little bit faster. I can do them a little bit better. And Castmagic is something where it's really based on the copy, the content as a written form, which was always my weak spot. I started out as a blogger, jumped into podcasting, stopped being a blogger. So the copy is the thing. So I'm going to just take a moment here and ask everybody to pop in and tell me, have you been using AI in any form, not just maybe a Castmagic or Castmagic-like tool, but what other AI tools are you using these days to expedite your processes, or even in something that you do in your personal life? I see Patrick Keller is in the house. And by the way, folks, remember, if you're in Facebook and you want us to see your name and your image while you're leaving a comment, make sure you've given StreamYard your permissions. It resets every once in a while. I don't know why. One time in the middle of a stream, my face and my image on a live stream I was watching just stopped showing up, and I was Facebook user 102. So please go to streamyard.com/Facebook. Takes a second, gives permissions to Facebook to use your picture and your name, and then I can say, hey, yo, there's Patrick Keller, just like that. All right, we're going to happen here in just a second with Greg Wasserman from Castmagic. This, again, is a presentation by the Podcast Editor Academy. This is where Mark Deal and we help podcast editors grow and, launch a podcast editing business, kind of like what I've done. So there's a lot of great resources in there, and if you want to hear more, just go to podcasteditoracademy.com. and you'll be able to see what we have to offer there. All right, Patrick chimes in because Patrick, he's good for that. I only use AI for episode summaries. I plug my hand-typed show notes in. Yes, pecking away there. Okay, I want to bring in, hold on, sorry, one last thing. Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to this live stream. We're going to be bringing in right now, over here, oh, it did it again. It switched it on me. Over here. I don't know why that happened. Mr. Greg Wasserman. How are you, Greg?
I'm all right, man. Great to see you again.
Thanks for being here. And we are really excited about seeing a demonstration a little bit later on today about Castmagic. But what you really are going to present for us is how to use Castmagic to 10x. So not just make a title and description, but actually do more than that. So you are the head of growth, partnerships, and community for Castmagic. That's a lot of hats to be wearing at one time.
I know, right?
Have you managed it pretty well?
I have. It's incredible when you think about, like, community kind of fuels everything else. So community then fuels the growth. Like, you get this with your community, right? Like, everyone tells everyone else, and you're like, great. So if you create such a good environment for everyone, then there goes your growth, and that's where more people become part of your community.
Yeah. And how long have you been with Castmagic now? It was kind of part of your idea.
So yes, no, I cannot take credit.
Oh, okay.
Part of this will actually be the story of how Castmagic came about, but also how I ended up joining the company.
Okay.
But yeah, I joined in April. The company started. There was an idea. New Year's Eve of 2022. So we just hit 1 year.
Yeah. Wow, man, it's so fast. I can't imagine it was only that short amount of time ago that it started. I feel like I've been hearing about Castmagic for, a couple of years. But yeah, AI has just exploded in the past 12, 13 months.
That has been my feeling as well. It's like, all right, where's time gone? But it's moving so quickly, and that's exactly why you need to be using it.
All right. Well, you've got a great presentation, I can tell, for our podcast editors and managers who are in the audience. So I'm going to kind of put us off to the side here and let you take the screen with your presentation. And then, folks, if you have any questions while we're going through this presentation, feel free to post them. Any comments as well for Greg about maybe how Castmagic, you've been using it in the past or something like that. And then I'll bring them up to him during the presentation if it seems relevant at that moment. Otherwise, we'll hold the questions towards the end. Greg, it's all yours.
Thank you, guys. Well, I mean, I got Patrick here in the comments, but if anyone else is able to weigh in, like, I would love to know exactly, like, how are you using AI? What are your thoughts on AI right now? What those of you that showed up today, like, what were you hoping to gain in terms of knowledge on this, knowing that the headline was exactly this: how to 10x your content using AI. So if you want to chat, like, I would love to have this more interactive than me just speaking here, but we can do that as well. So if you think about it, the purpose of today and this presentation really is a workshop to help you better understand how to use AI to 10x your content. I'm not here to bait and offer. I'm literally give you knowledge. That's going to be the whole focus of this. As Steve kind of alluded to, like, what is my background? So I used to sell podcast ads with CBS Radio. Literally left right before Entercom took over. Now we all know they just went bankrupt again. I ran 3 podcast listing platforms, which gave me a really unique perspective on podcasting when you're now working with all the hosting companies. And by working with all the hosting companies, your skin in the game is a matter of how do I help them? How do I help podcasters grow their audience? How do I help get distribution? So it's been an incredible journey there. And then, as you've seen, I'm now the head of growth, partnerships, and community for Castmagic, which is an AI tool that originally started in the podcast space, and we've since expanded. So part of what we'll talk about is very podcast focused, but we like to realize that you're people. I'm a person. I have ideas. So how do we leverage those ideas to really 10x our content? The king of content OG is Gary Vee. If we think about that, like, Gary Vee has put an entire focus on how you can take content and repurpose it, taking a video, taking a podcast, how he literally thinks about all these components to 10x his content. He is involved in that process of just building original content for different audiences, and he understands that if I take a podcast, I want to snippet this, I've got to put this in different avenues, in different places. I can't just repost the original file. Take a podcast, I got to cut it down into a LinkedIn post, a Twitter feed. Like, each one of those platforms are very different. And so Gary understands exactly how that works. So if you think about it, though, not everyone is Gary. Like, most of us are like solopreneurs, a small team. I'm like, I don't have the ability to do what Gary does. So it's overwhelming. Like, scaling content, you're faced with a lot of friction points, resource limitations, right? Like, there's not 28 hours in a day. I'm limited on the manpower, the time, budget constraints, the ability to create content. It's overwhelming in some regards. Maintaining that quality, as you know, you take on more clients, you take on more content. As content increases, quality increases, maintaining the same level of quality also becomes a piece that you have to try to overcome. Content diversification, kind of like what I was talking about. How do you get this content in all the varied places, a blog, a video, podcast, snippets, and everything? Like, that becomes a little hard to do. Audience engagement. So scaling at different times can dilute your personalization engagement with the audience. So creating content that resonates with a larger audience without losing that personal touch is a common challenge. Content repurposing, reusing that content across platforms while maintaining uniqueness. As you all know, you've got to cut it for each one of those places. Workflow and collaboration. As you grow, as your team grows, and you start doing remote work, like, managing those workflows, that becomes a challenge. Adapting to the trends. Everyone in the podcast space, we know video is the hot thing right now. So I've got to jump on that. So you got to stay up to date on all these pieces. That becomes a little overwhelming. Technology and tools, right? So as we were talking at the top here, AI, like, feels like we've been around for years, but it's only been a short period of time. So how do you stay top of all that? Measurement, analytics, like, when you think about your clients and helping them from measurement and tracking and analyzing this volume, like, it becomes overwhelming in some regards. So There's a lot of things that go along with this that can be overwhelming. Key piece I want to also call out. Why is this working? There we go. Is don't over automate. So if you think about this, the disclaimer of what role does AI play? You want to be authentic. And this is when we are thinking about your clients, your own content, anything. You are your brand. Your client's brand is what matters. That is the whole thing that AI can't replicate, can't. Authenticity right now is going to be a big piece. Your brand, your content, and there's tools that will then allow you to be that voice as opposed to the outside noise that comes along with it. So why should you be 10xing your content with AI? Volume becomes a big thing. So consistency. Regular content keeps your audience engaged and establishes a routine, a likeness. You guys all get this. My podcast has to go out every Thursday because that's what people are expecting. If it doesn't go out, then you see the drop in numbers. You see the panic, like, oh, I'm not going to make my deadline. So consistency, you understand in the podcast space. So consistency with your content is key. Visibility and reach. So the more content means more opportunities for your work to be seen. Because we're all trying to help our clients and ourselves get their content, get more downloads, grow their audience, grow their brand. The more content you're putting out there helps increase the visibility and reach. Diverse offerings is another thing. So producing a variety of content allows you to cater to different preferences. So I always like to say, I may not always listen to your podcast, but I can engage with you on your LinkedIn post. So I'm still engaging with your brand. So you're able to use that podcast as the case, as the source material to reach me with a newsletter or reach me with a LinkedIn post. And no, I may not listen to it, but at least I can engage with your brand. And that brand becomes the overall piece that you're looking at. Volume also helps you with SEO and algorithm. So as you guys know, a blog post, so being able to take that podcast and create the blog post and then have more SEO searchability because you've got all this favorable content that's being able to do that. The last thing, a lot in the podcast space are using it for establishing their authority. So if you are now putting out more content and you can produce it and it's your voice and you're the authority, that builds your connection, that builds your trust among an audience. And with volume, all comes data. And data is a key thing. It's not just about downloads and who's listening to this. That's one component to it, but audience insights is now giving you across all these different mediums. So increased data means information about your audience. Analyzing this data helps understand your preferences, behaviors, interests. So now you can start saying, like, this is who's listening on these platforms and who's engaging with my blog, who's engaging with my newsletter, who's engaging with my LinkedIn posts, and start figuring out even the differences between all those distribution channels. And then you can start refining that targeting. So the data helps you figure out, like, who do I speak with on these different modalities and these different distribution points. And then it helps you with trends. Analyzing larger data allows you to spot trends more effectively. And then, of course, the big one. So we all know the 3 questions I always got asked in terms of podcasting is, how do I grow my distribution? How do I grow my audience? And how do I monetize, right? So if you now are able to understand and grow all these different channels beyond just the one podcast, but the podcast becomes your source material, you now have more opportunities to go beyond just monetizing with a CPM or monetizing with a sponsorship within my podcast. You truly start becoming a brand, and a brand that lives all these places. The last thing on here is personalization. So AI can now help you personalize things. Good example is if you think a LinkedIn post. If I take a podcast, I'm like, all right, my call to action can be 3 different things. I want to educate people. So I can have a LinkedIn post about education, what was said in this recording, in this podcast. I can have a listen to my podcast, so a call to action on that. So now I can literally start figuring out an A/B test and personalize what content's working and start figuring out how do I refine that or be in different places in different ways because I'm able to do that, which then allows you to build better relationships. And so your clients can start figuring out who is engaging with them, why they're engaging with them, and they're really being able to get more which leads to the retention and loyalty, which we're always trying to figure out, like, how do I grow my show? How do I grow my audience? Well, you need retention. And so how do you then speak to them appropriately? Which of course leads to conversion. So if you think about it from a marketing standpoint, if you are doing better host-read ads or better sponsorships, now you've got a better conversion rates for the content that they're putting out there. And the last thing is, of course, you stand out, right? Like in a saturated content landscape, personalized content helps creators stand out. And the thing, if we go back to what I was saying in terms of like being overwhelmed, like this is why AI helps you. It's not going to make it so overwhelming because you can truly use a tool that helps you do all this seamlessly. So let's see if I've got any questions here. Always 3 versions of a summary and then compile the best. Exactly, Patrick.
Right, Patrick's comment.
Yeah.
Also that he gets a summary, but ends up rewriting it. But then we got Sarah's comment here. No, that was Sarah's comment. It says gets a summary, but then ends up rewriting it. Now you're talking a little bit about in number 4, they're personalizing. It can give you a personalized result. Can you explain how that's working with AI these days?
So yeah, I mean, if we think about it, if I go to ChatGPT and I ask it for something or I do something, it's going to be pulling a lot of outside messaging. So tool like Castmagic, what it allows you to do is it's personalized with your brand, your voice, your input is whatever that's recording. And then you can personalize it going back from a LinkedIn post, like what is my call to action? What is the prompt that I want to really focus on and hone it in on that personalization?
So personalizing it as in the way of adding your pieces to it that are specific to your brand, but not necessarily. What is it? Tone of voice, I think, is what I'm actually thinking of.
Tone of voice, but like personalizing content using AI. So back to my LinkedIn example, I can now have automate for me. Take my podcast, go great. I just had this great interview podcast I just did. Load into Castmagic, and I'll show you, and then have 3 LinkedIn posts written. One that is informative. One is go listen to my episode. And one could be a different call to action. And that all is then done seamlessly. So it's now personalized based on what kind of call to action I want. Or I can look at it as my audience. Like, all right, I looked in the data and I know my audience here is some are salespeople, some are partnership people, some are enablement people. So I can go ahead and say, like, great, write me a LinkedIn post with a call to action catered towards sales enablement people. Write it in with the personalization for this audience and this audience. And now it's able to do it seamlessly without you having to write 3 different pieces of copy.
Perfect. And you'll be showing us a little bit of that in the demo. Okay, I'll stop asking questions.
No,
continue.
Good questions. No, good questions. So the next piece I like to go into is kind of the case study here, right? So back to what Steve was talking about in terms of it feels like I've been with Castmagic forever. So the story of how Castmagic came about is just like the perfect example of this. 2 guys here, Blaine and Ramon, are the co-founders. They have a podcast. That is literally how Castmagic came about. They were both running their own VC-backed company, have a podcast, and as we all know, it's a lot of work that goes into producing a podcast and then the after pieces of it. And they're like, I don't have the ability to run this company effectively, do this show, and do all this. And so as engineers and programmers themselves, they built Castmagic to literally serve their need of going, how do I still do my company and do all the things that I need? How do I allow myself to write the show notes I need, to do the blog posts I need, to do all the pull out quotes, pull out clips, pull out all these components that made it incredibly hard for them to do their jobs. And so what was great about this story is because of Castmagic, it allowed them to start content repurposing and flooding the market with all their stuff, which allowed them to grow their show, but also put them on my radar. So every Monday on my LinkedIn, which is where I live socially, I post 3 podcasts that I think people should listen to. Came across them, posted them, tagged them. Blaine then hit me up and he's like, hey, I built this tool that I think you'd find really interesting because you seem to know a lot about podcasting. Showed it to me. I'm like, mind blown. I'm like, yes, this is what I've been trying to get podcasters to do, to think of themselves as a brand. How do they take that source material and do so much more? Because let's be honest, I'm never going to listen to every podcast that I may want to, but I can get your newsletter and spend 3 minutes on that newsletter as opposed to 50 minutes listening to it every week. Or I can go and see your LinkedIn post and go, oh, wow, I'm still engaging with you as a brand. I'm still engaging with your content. I just may not be able to listen to it all. And that's what allowed them to grow, eventually turn their newsletter into a sponsorship opportunity that led to a $10,000 opportunity. So by being able to take their source material, they've repurposed it and grown from there. Another one is Mikey. So Mikey Teller was a pro skateboard. He took his business and then became an entrepreneur and became a real estate mogul. And his whole thing is he uses his social media platforms to educate the masses on financial freedoms. But what I really love is how he thinks about content. So let me show that real quick for you.
Greg, there might be a setting that I didn't know you were going to play audio, but we're not hearing anything.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Do you want to just give me the link to the video and I can just put it in the chat for people?
Yeah. Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
Where's chat?
There's private chat on the right hand
yeah.
side. Yeah. Or you can get it to me and I get it to people through the email. Oh, there you go. Okay, I'll put it in the chat for everybody if you want to go and watch this video that he's demonstrating on the screen. I think we get the idea though. You can continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Mikey goes on and talks about is how he thinks about content. Monday, he literally says, he's like, I shut the door. I literally sit there and I strategize what I want to do. Tuesday, he records everything and produces everything. That then becomes the flywheel for all the content that he's constantly producing, which floods the market and keeps him going. So as a $250 million investor and VC guy who's now thinking about how do I take content, it's just a really interesting example to go like, all right, how do I take, especially from a podcast standpoint, we go back to Gary Vee's example, like how do you take one source component and become everything that you would need to reproduce? So let me go back to the presentation. So if we now then go into what he does is take his long form audio, in our case, podcast, throw it through Castmagic. Through Castmagic, it's now going to spit out all these outputs automatically, customize, distribute, rinse and repeat. And so now it allows you to do basically all the things I've been describing, overcome those fears, overcome those obstacles, focus on just your brand voice, focus on just you, and then take that content, be able to spin it everywhere else. So let's actually go ahead and give you kind of a demo on this. So if we go here.
This is my favorite part. Here it comes, folks. Go. Screenshots. Get ready.
So goes back to the story of why Castmagic started. And so it originally started, as I said, because they were running a podcast. But you realize, no different than all of us, whether I'm a podcast manager, podcast editor, I'm running a business. That means I'm talking to clients. That means I'm having meetings. That means I'm having thoughts and conversations. I'm trying to run a business here. So understanding that, we started off in the podcast space, but then we built all these different profiles into here. So if I take my podcast and I'll show you, I'm going to get out of the box these 13 different presets. But if I go ahead and take my coaching call and I'll show you that, like I can now have coaching. If I'm a podcast consultant going like, all right, I want to teach people about, I want to teach people, I want to educate them, whatever the case may be. Or maybe you're a course creator. Maybe you've thought about like, you know what, I want to teach people. How could I create a course and then create a worksheet and a quiz and a lead magnet to sell that? So we start realizing like podcasting is just a part of who we are. We do so much more. And so that is kind of where Castmagic is. It's the ultimate workspace for content repurposing. So you've got all these different spaces. So if you're an agency, if you've got multiple shows, if you have multiple clients, you can set up a specific space for each one of them. You can have, in this case, like I've got a podcast one. Here's one that I love. Like I am a guest on a lot of people's podcasts. So I set up a space for all my guest podcast, and then I have the content already written as if I'm in a guest, which makes it so much easier for me to repurpose that content. So since we're all in the podcast space, let's focus on that. So how do I get the content here? I can upload, I can drag and drop the raw file. I can go to YouTube and pull in a YouTube file. I can do Vimeo. I can do an Instagram reel, TikTok. So when you think about your clients who've done snippets and go like, oh, I want to take this snippet that I've done as a reel, and now I want to figure out how do I expand upon that. So like there's so many different ways to think about how do you repurpose the content with whatever your audio and video form. And then from a client standpoint, like your clients want the back catalog, you can take their RSS feed and then import directly. Or what I love doing for this is helping my clients from a pre-production standpoint. So let's say I know that Scott Pollock is going to join my client's show. I can go ahead and say, all right, I want to find out what Scott said on some other show. I'm going to import this in here, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like. But now I can use that insight as the fuel for my actual show. Too often what happens is I go on someone's podcast, and they've gone to ChatGPT, and they're like, Greg does X, Y, and Z, so give me a list of questions that I should be asking Greg. And they're all kind of very generic, but now you can actually use the source material of me on someone else's show and go, great, I already know what Greg's saying. I want to dive deeper into that. So I'll show you how that happens, but using it for pre-production as well as post-production is key. So here's now my workspace called Greg's Podcast, and here are a slew of podcasts. Imagine right now that I've got 300 episodes in here. I'm going to dive into episode 15. So everything starts with the transcription. You have the full ability to edit that transcription. So I can click on it. I can start editing anything I want in here. I can move things around. I use Grammarly for its plugin, hence why you're seeing the red underline. The point is we're not an editing tool in the sense like if I edit the transcript, is it going to edit the raw file? No. This is just trying to get the raw file or the text to match what you need. A lot of people use Descript. Great, you use Descript, edit everything in there, and then import it. And I can help you with that direct import import function, so you can have exactly what you've already done in that third party and bring it in here. So you've got your transcript. Once you've edited everything, great. Now you've got the AI content. So what we focus on out of the box, this is just for podcasting. You get 10 different titles. Maybe you don't like the title. So if you've seen, I've done this multiple times. As we all know, don't put the person's name first, but hey, I did it as a demo for people. Gives you the keywords, which are great, especially having run 3 podcast listening platforms. One of them was Player FM. And one of the cool things about Player FM is keywords actually matter. And that actually helps a lot of the SEO and the searchability with inside that function. So you can use it for the distribution programs that do that, or you're over SEO. Creates a speaker bio. Once again, we are only using the source material of what your recording is. Introduction. Maybe you don't like the speaker bio. So as you see, write the speaker bio in the tone of Robin Williams. And so that's what this is. This is all fully editable. So I've got the ability. So I think, who was that? Patrick was saying you take multiple pieces and stitch it together. Here, you're able to edit it directly in here. Introduction. Here's your timestamp overviews. So there's your YouTube chapters, your Spotify chapters. Long form, short form. I've got people that are using the long form literally for their social promotion. They'll say, hey, on this episode, we speak with so-and-so, and then they drop in their timestamps in there. So they're giving people the heads up already on their LinkedIn posts. Organize it into topics and bullet points. We pull out the quotes. So it's going to be a page of quotes per speaker. So what you're able to do is I can take that quote. I've got the timestamp there. If we go to transcript, I can highlight. You can see it says 1224 to 1304. And I can hit this little button that says clip media. That's literally going to clip the raw file. So if it's an audio only, it's going to clip that audio file and download it as an MP3 into your computer. If it's a video file, it's going to download it as an MP4 onto your computer. And so you've got the clips there. So your AI content here is already telling you, here's 10 quotes for Scott at what time that I think you should probably clip. So as an editor, this should hopefully be helping you Save time and automate. Where should I be clipping? What should I be looking at? If you're getting 10 quotes per person, most likely there's a good content in there. Social promotion's the next piece. So real script. I had to describe this to someone earlier, but like literally an Instagram reel, like, hey everyone, it's Greg from here on the latest episode of Greg's podcast, right? So literally it's giving you a script, a LinkedIn post. It's giving you a newsletter, a tweet thread, and threads by Instagram. As I tell everyone, you're not stuck in a box. So if you want to use any of these in any different ways, great. We're giving you so much content, which is the other piece. I love questions. So back to the whole piece of Scott Pollock. If I wanted to get Scott on my show, or Scott's coming on my show, I put this in here as pre-production. It's not going to give me a bunch of questions that I can think about. What should I be asking Scott when he's on my show, instead of going to ChatGPT and coming up with anything in the research standpoint? Or post-production, I can use this now as a blog post. So I literally got 10 new different blog post ideas, or I've got discussion questions. So I've got podcasters that are taking these discussion questions, they're inserting them as a mid-roll, and they're saying, hey, I've got a great question on my Instagram. I'd love for you to answer it. So those are great things out of the box to think about. What's the question you got here? How can it decide what a quote is as opposed to a random comments or discussion? Great question. So if we go look at our prompts, these are the out-of-the-box prompts that are built into the podcast preset. So if we look at, where was it? Clips. Write a viral topic title and quote for a podcast episode. And those are what it's going to pull out for the quotes. So if you wanted something different, you can go ahead and come up there. Real script. Pretend you're an entrepreneur, business influencer. You want to make a 30-second voiceover summarizing the audio session you just hosted. Write the script that I could use to make the video. Do not include cues or scene notes. So this is out of the box. But what's great is, I'll skip ahead just here. So you've got these five. These five I've created on my own. So let's actually go jump into those, and I'll show you how you can automate even more than what we give you. So if we scroll down, I've got the too long didn't listen highlights. Go back to my comment in terms of, I may not be able to listen to your show. So I would love, this is my ask, like I would love to listen to a podcast and go like, sit back, relax. If you missed anything, go to our website. We've got the too long didn't listen highlights. Here you go. Or I use that as a LinkedIn post. Analogy, metaphor, parable. Someone actually came up and their prompt was, write this episode to the tune of Gilligan Island's lyrics. And it did that. And it's literally your words, your podcast, but to the tune of Gilligan Island. So you get creative. Course creation. Back to thinking about, how does your client then take their content and turn it into something more monetizable? So created a prompt, literally, how do I take this podcast recording and make it a course creation? And now I can go into PowerPoint, like I've got, presenting here, build out a PowerPoint, go present it to someone, and then I'll show you then, once you take that recording, you can go to the courses section and it's going to build all the lead magnet and the workshops and everything else for you. So you're now helping your clients think well beyond just their podcast, but helping them from their business standpoint. Show notes. So if we think about show notes, as you've noticed, everyone does show notes differently. This is a prompt I came up with that I would want my show notes to be. We give you the pieces of show notes, but if there's a certain kind that you would want, you can get it. Write my show notes to the tune, baby back up. Yeah, like Patrick, I'll do that. We'll do a demo. I'll do a live demo. That'll be fun. We can do that. And then custom newsletter. While we give you a newsletter, this was a prompt that I came up with that I would want in my format. So what's cool about this is also you can now use source material that gives you even more of a guidance. So if we go back to prompts and we look here, so here's the prompt. Using the context in this episode, write an email newsletter about the podcast release. Use the following outline for the episode: introduction, 5 keys that the listener will learn, a fun fact from the episode, an outro, call to action. Use a friendly, casual tone. So that's what I would want as my newsletter. In this content sample, if I know, or I already have a sample of my writing, I can paste that in there and it'll match not only the format. So you can think about how you do this with viral tweets. You're like, okay, I want my content and I need it as an X feed, but I really like this viral guy stuff. So I'm going to copy and paste that in here and go match that style, but with my words, my story, my podcast is the source material, which makes it really unique. And then as many of us are working with many clients, you can come up with a prompt and share it across different spaces. Right now, it's, as you can see, just a green check mark. It's only in my Greg's podcast, but I can move it in all these other spaces if I really wanted to. Things are automated. I can move them around. I can drag and drop. I always tell people, disable the things we give you, and unless you really never want to use it, then you can remove it. And so if we now go into Patrick's little thing, so how did I come up with those 5 prompts? Think of ChatGPT built in, but it's only using your content, your client's podcast as the source material, or whatever recording may be. And so in this case, here's the prompt I came up with. Write a 3-paragraph episode summary, the first paragraph beginning with a thought-provoking question directed at the audience, who in this case works in sales and partnerships. Then include a quick summary of who the guest is in the second paragraph. Provide a high-level summary with this episode is in the third. There is my show notes. And so as you can see, I clicked saved, and now that will run and automate in every recording in this workspace. Once again, how do I work smarter, not harder? How do I use AI to automate things and get me more content than I can just edit, as opposed to I've got to start from scratch and figure this piece out. And you can constantly refine that the output by improving your actual prompt. But if we want to go here, what is it? Write me my show. Oh, I can't. Yeah, here. Let's do this. Write me the show notes, the tune. Well, write me show notes, the tune of Baby Back Back. There we go. So you can see I've played around with a bunch. If I don't click save prompt, it's only relevant in this specific workspace. In this specific recording. But if I click save prompt, it's going to be for every recording. So while that's doing that, if we look at this, I was in episode 115 just now. If I go to episode 1, don't ask me, Greg, why it took me 115 episodes to think of what prompt I wanted for my show note. But if I go to Magic Chat, I've never used Magic Chat. There is nothing there. But if I go to the AI content and scroll down, you can see all those saved prompts are there. So you can, no matter when you think of a prompt, it's going to be able to be automated. All you have to do is now go back to episode 1, and those will rerun. And then if you come up, like, I don't have that many prompts. You can see I've got maybe 20. I know people that have got 50 prompts. And so when you use this jump feature, it makes it so much easier to go like, great, I can go exactly where I need to be. I can export this as a CSV file. I can, if we go to transcripts, I can download it as an SRT, CSV, custom. So you've got the customization there. Let's go back to see what Patrick's got from a song standpoint. Magic Chat. Let's scroll down. I don't even want to read this, but there we go. We've got Baby Got Back.
This is a clean channel, so please do not.
It's not even that. I mean, it's just, you don't want to hear me singing, right?
Oh,
so,
well, Sir Mix-a-Lot doesn't sing either. You can rap it.
This is true. You can rap it. There you go. But now I've got Greg's podcast crew. Let me spin you a tale. That's true. We start with a splash in tropic lands where phones don't ring and inboxes stand. Where Scott Leese with a hat defines his old puts on the line. He says it's clear with markets old, networks gold. And it's literally Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Back, but about this podcast episode is the source material. So yeah, kind of fun.
That's interesting because when I asked earlier about the personality thing, this kind of tells me exactly what I was thinking about. That you can actually customize the prompt to give you the type of results that you're looking for.
Yes. So there's a couple ways, as I just showed you with the prompts. So if we look at here, you've got content sample. But another cool thing is, and this is one that you guys would like, is context prompt. So let me go into one where I've actually got it. So this is a workspace where I am the guest. And so what I wanted to do is, settings. These recordings are podcast episodes where Greg Wasserman is the guest, and the AI content should be written in the first person for Greg. So if you've got clients or are always guesting, and magic words are words that you think it's going to spell wrong, so I always use nouns in that way, so it makes it so much easier for me. But now if I go into recording, go into this one, now if I scroll down to, hey there podcasters, I recently had the privilege of being a guest on Bambi Media's podcast with Brianna, where she dived deep into the world of podcasting and discussed the importance of treating your brand podcast like a brand. Now I don't have to go ahead and say like, please write this in the first person. It's already doing it for me because I set up a specific space knowing that it is me as a guest. And so you can think about all these ways that you can customize it for your clients, for the workflow that you've got going on. Another cool thing is the shareable link. So I can now share these things with people. If we take a little gander here, right? So I'm not hiding anything, but I can now go ahead and say like, look, I've got a client who works with Metallica, and they literally use this as a production tool, sending their client Metallica back and forth, going like, all right, here's what we've got going on. Let me know what edits. Lets the client have access to Magic Chat so they can come up with anything. Or if we look at embedding this on your website, so this is DTC Pod. This is the basis of what Castmagic is, all built with Castmagic, taking their timestamps, but then they embedded this onto their website. So while the transcript piece may not be helpful for an SEO, they're now giving their listeners who's coming to their website access to Magic Chat to literally ask it and prompt it anything that they may want to extract, to learn, like, what could I learn from this episode? What could I learn from this? So if you want it, you can disable that. You can also hide what you share. So if I click these three little dots, display and share link means some stuff is for me and some stuff I'm okay with letting other people see it. So you really have the customization of using this. But if you look at it then from a coaching standpoint, I know we're podcast editors and producers, but like, once again, you're probably taking on clients. So you've got meetings. So now I can use this as a intake, record my meetings. And what do we talk about? Get the quotes from it, get a worksheet. So literally I'm able to go to my client and go, hey, here's a worksheet on what we've discussed. Here's action items. It wrote an email for me. Here's goals and objectives. Like, I want to hold you accountable now. So I literally am able to do that well beyond just that. But if we look about this even deeper, we've got this function called Pages. And what Pages allows you to do is now aggregate content. So as podcasters, you'll appreciate this. I took 5 coaching calls, and I'm like, you're a course creator. The recordings contain discussions about podcasting. Leveraging these recordings, create the framework for a workshop. Teach podcasters. There you go. Now I get the framework for a workshop. So I can literally now create this in Canva, create this in PowerPoint, a framework, so I can go teach people. And this is all based on recordings. Or in this case, I asked it to, you are a professional writer, someone at the New York Times. The 5 recordings are conversations about podcasting. Leveraging these recordings, write a detailed article explaining something. Now I've got this 2,000, 3,000 word article that becomes something I can gate behind. Try that again. You can put this behind a paywall gate and go, you want to understand more? So you can think about how your clients, depending on what their content is, if it's an interview based, like, they can now aggregate and build a framework. Like, this is what entrepreneurs are saying, or these are different pieces. You now can start looking at it from that. Or as a podcast editor, you want to go get more clients. Great. Write an email. So I took these coaching calls. I'm like, you're a podcast agency. These are coaching calls talking about podcasting services. Write me a 3 email sequence to sell my services to potential cold clients. Remember, the source material is me and my coaching calls And now it is leveraging that as knowledge on how to go ahead and sell me an email and create a sequence to get more clients. So it goes far beyond just show notes and timestamps. It's literally how do we repurpose content with the source material, in this case, coaching calls or a podcast, whatever the case may be. Let me go back to this. So with that, I want to leave it open for some Q&As here. Steve, if there's any questions, we've got 15 minutes here. Is there anything that you've seen besides Patrick? Yeah.
That was actually the one thing I had starred because I want to make sure we came back to it. And you did it in the demo anyway. I have a couple things I want to ask about.
Yeah.
So let's say it's a six. First of all, does this accept video or is it just taking in audio files?
Great question. So go back to how do I upload audio video. So if you've got video, upload video. You've got just the audio, you've got the YouTube, go ahead. One thing we didn't talk about is, if you can't tell, I'm an external processor. So we have an iOS app that's part of it. And so what I did, we're still seeing my screen, right? So
yes,
I literally did this today. I had a call with someone, and I just felt so much gratitude. So I recorded myself for 2 minutes, literally gratitude for people I get to work with, gratitude for who I speak with. Turn my gratitude conversation, that 2-minute thing, into a LinkedIn post that I will now probably post and share with other people, because I'm like, that was literally it. Like, my source material is my thoughts. So if you think about it, it's not the podcast, but like, you can do the pre-planning with your clients, going like, what do we want to talk about, and record that and have this then create the content for you to do better production.
Sweet. So it does take video input as well, video and audio.
Correct.
Gives you the copy. And then, oh yeah, and I want to ask, how fast does the process take for it to finish? Let's say it's a 60-minute episode that's been fully produced. How long does it take?
Few minutes. I mean, look here, if we want to, you got a YouTube file, I'll go do it right now.
What's that one right there?
This is 2 minutes.
Oh, well, I just want to get a sense of it. We're talking about less than 10 minutes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Definitely less than 10
5 minutes?
Is
And of course, I know it depends on the size of the file we're uploading, and then of course, how good their internet speed is.
Let's see, how long is this? Yeah, 15 minutes. 15 minutes is not going to be long, but hey.
I think it gives everybody a sense for how long it is.
All right, let's go. YouTube, import, YouTube, submit.
1, 2, 3, 4. While that's happening, and keep an eye on it. Ted Craig is in the house. He wants to know, how is the transcription accuracy for English with a heavy accent?
So, great question, Ted. Our North Star is accuracy. There you go. So
that was like 20 seconds for 15 minutes.
Save that.
Yeah.
Great. So now it's going to process it, and you'll see how quickly that is. And so our whole thing is accuracy. If we go back to the reason why Castmagic was built, Blaine and Ramon running VC-backed company, doing a podcast, like, I don't have the time to make any edits and changes. I need this to be accurate, which is why we have the content context prompt as an option. Like, let it know what this is so it can be better with the AI. And how do we use magic words? There we go. So that's done. So there's your transcription. All I have to do now is label my speakers. So what was that, a minute? I don't know.
Yeah, that didn't take long at all.
Yeah, right?
So the accuracy you're saying is 99%?
Look, it's still AI, but I would not say 99%. It's going to be,
heavy
the
accent.
goal is, we are across the world. So I've got India using this heavily. I've got Europe using this heavily. Some of our largest customers are German, and they've got a huge, thick German accent, not only speaking English, but also in their native tongue. So if you look at edit recording, right now, we're English to English, Spanish to Spanish. You've got all these different language options that you can go with. But you can't take like a French recording, say, translate it directly into English. English to English, Spanish to Spanish. And you've got these other functions. So speakers expect it. So you're able to improve the quality and save you time on like the speaker transcription piece.
Okay, and then we've got Mike
Uh,
Wilkerson asking the question. He's got the
but
big
hopefully that
question.
answers your question, Ted.
Yeah.
What are packages and prices? So it's all based on minutes. And so if we go here, you've got 200 minutes, 500 minutes, and 1500 minutes. If you ever need more minutes, it's just 20 cents, 20 cents, and 10 cents a minute, but depending on those. I've got people that are on the Rising Star plan. Right now, you're looking at the annual. So if we did monthly, but most people, especially in our field here on the podcast side of things, like you're going to be doing this annually. So why wouldn't I take a 40% discount, save myself knowing I'm going to be doing this every month? And you can create unlimited spaces, unlimited. You can also invite people. So that's what we didn't show you. So I can go ahead and
You can invite, say again. Say
I can
again.
invite teams. I can invite people to
Yes.
certain places.
Thank you.
So in this case, I've got Rob tied only to this Greg and Rob's coaching place. But if I look at team for here, no one's there. So you can literally set up your workspaces, invite different people to your spaces, and go, great, you've got this, or have them to all those places, and they have full functionality to make do what they need.
Wow. Okay, Patrick's got a question. Does it censor colorful language?
No. I mean,
Okay.
it's whatever you say, it's what it's going to be. So yes, it is not a filter for language. But if you need it to filter for language, you can use the find and replace, and you can go ahead and search for what those words may be,
Okay.
and filter it or edit the transcript from that. But remember, we're not editing the raw file. It is just the transcript here.
Right. And with the transcript, then let me ask you this, because there's actually a complaint that transcriptions by AI actually do not include everything. They don't put the ahs in there, and some people want them. Does Castmagic ignore ahs, or do they include them in the transcription?
We cut them out.
Okay.
It's part of the filter.
That makes my job easier. I understand. I understand the argument for the other side. All right, and then Brian Insfinger's in the house. Is there a way to search all of the transcripts within a single space to find content across a multi-episode catalog?
So, Brian, the way to do that is going to be with pages, but not right now across all of them. Pages is going to allow you to go ahead and take up to 5 recordings. We do have a search function. It is not live yet, but that will eventually be the answer to your question of how do I search for certain things. I'll tell you where those certain things come up. I've seen them in demo. It's just not live at this moment. We are moving fast from a roadmap standpoint. Pretty soon we'll have images and be able to add images from audiograms, from quote cards, and from blog stuff. There's more that's happening, as well as getting the iOS out of beta into actually on the App Store.
Excellent. I can see the use case for that, especially for people in my community. And Brian's saying he'd love to see that.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Cool.
Will
Folks, if...
capture and store based on when it was captured?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure. Will it capture and store based on when it was captured?
Okay, I guess it's like live transcription, because I know something like Otter AI can actually transcript as it's recording.
Oh no, because you've got to upload the file,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if I'm doing the iOS app and I hit tap, so it's going to be play and pause. It is not until I hit stop and let it upload directly to my account will it actually do anything.
What about, you said YouTube? What if it was a live stream on YouTube?
No, because you can't
No.
do the live stream. It's got to be still pulled in. So the YouTube would still be. It's got to be a public link. But yeah, it's not gonna transcribe it right away in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to find a hack there for him. That'd be great.
No, but I mean, what we've got is a lot of speakers will take the ISA app. They'll take a mic, connect it, and after their conference, their speaking engagement, because it's already been uploaded, they have prompts already built out. They now have the shared link, and they share it to the attendees, and it's like amazing.
Yeah, as quick as it is, that's great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about Reaper, but Reaper apparently you can be editing the audio while the recording is going on, which is
Oh
very
wow.
cool. Yeah. So that technology's out there.
Well,
I don't know the use cases for it, except there's somebody who wants it.
remember the I guess Castmagic, the lane we're focused on is content repurposing,
Yeah.
less on the content editing of audio and video, clipping for your shorts for basically the repurposing component.
Okay. And then another comment from Mike or question: could I have this capture all the provided links in show notes programs, and compile them based on program title, and then alphabetize them?
I guess you know
Could
the
I
question better than
capture?
I do. Could
Could
I
you
capture?
capture all the provided links in show notes programs? I want to know what the in show notes programs means. If he's talking about outside of Castmagic or if it's stuff that's inside, like Brian was asking for. But I'm guessing
And then
if you
based
were
on
to
program
point,
title, then alphabetize them.
because it's all based on the audio or video that you bring
Yeah,
into Castmagic.
right. So let's see if I've got it.
And while you're looking it up,
Um,
Patrick, I'm going to answer your question. It'll be in Castmagic V 3.2.
Here, so please create a podcast description and show notes for this episode. The show note structure will be 5 key lessons. The call to actions will be learn more, a link to your podcast website episode page, connect with blank guest, and which will have links to their website resources. So there's the prompt and then calls to actions, and it says here links to Scott. So like we can't pull in Scott's links without knowing those because we only have the source material of what's there, but we're giving you the space then to automatically insert it. So maybe that doesn't answer your direct question, but I think combined with what Steve was saying, like we only know what the audio is, so kind of hard to do that.
That's okay. We're having fun with the making breakfast for Mike question. All right. One last question, then I think we'll wrap it up. What about links mentioned in the episode?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's a continuation of Mike's question, or if Brian's just saying, what does Castmagic do with all the links? Does it do hyperlinks and put the HTTPS in there to make them a naked link too?
It's real great. I mean, if someone mentions like, oh, go to this website, right? Like you could ask it, like, what were the books recommended? What were the websites that were recommended in there? And it'll pull that and organize that for
Yeah.
you.
Oh, Brian's saying it is a continuation of Mike's question about
Okay.
grouping them all together.
One thing I'll say is Brian and Mike, test it. You know, I guess that leads us into the finale here, right? So,
Oh, right. Yeah, let me
right.
first talk to the Podcast Editor Academy members because Greg has generously offered 50% off of 12 months of Castmagic. That's a huge discount, which definitely makes the Podcast Editor Academy really valuable. If you want that deal, if you're not an Academy member, go to podcasteditoracademy.com. But if you're not, Greg's still got a deal for you. So, Greg, tell them what you got.
1 month free at the hobby level. So, how do I drop this in here? Private chat, or is that just going to be for you
What's that?
there?
Well, here's the one for pricing. Oh, the promo code?
Yeah.
I see. Okay, yeah, let me put this into the chat and everybody will be able to see it. So this is the deal, and oh, that's a cool promo code. I really like that. Thank you.
You know, being the first person, you get Steve as you. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's get.castmagic.io/Greg Opens. What is Greg Opens?
I don't know why it's open.
Oh, you know what? That's my copy paste thing. Hold on, folks. I want to make this look a little bit better. Yeah, the copy paste thing does that once in a while. All right, here we go. Let's make it a little bit more attractive. Tell me if that's still accurate.
I don't see it. But what I want to call out is it's only good for a week, right? So there's no action without taking action. You can't listen here and just sit on the side. So make sure you go ahead and take it. And if you sign up in the next 24 hours, I'll give you an extra 500 minutes.
And that's by using code Steve100. Does it got to be
100.
caps and
Yep.
everything?
All caps.
All caps. Steve is STEVE. 100 is 100.
and 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 we require a credit card, just so you know. Like you can always cancel within 30 days. We need this to prevent abuse based on everything that we've got. But like, look, the point, like I said, is education. not only about why you should be thinking about content repurposing, but also, hey, here's about Castmagic, and by being here, you guys get this gift. Yeah.
Do unused credits roll over?
So from a monthly standpoint, no. So you get 200 minutes a month, use it or lose it type deal. If you purchase additional credits at the 20 cents or 10 cents, depending on what program you're at, those do roll over.
Okay. Like a different type of, that's like the golden ticket credit.
Yeah.
That doesn't work as an analogy, but I think people might laugh at that one. So,
Just because you got Willy Wonka on the brain, right?
sure. Yeah. I guess I got to go see the new movie now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Greg, for being here and showing us Castmagic and talking about how to 10x content and using it for meetings, thank you letters. I mean, Baby Got Back versions of our show notes.
Look, I use this to automate the content for my guests. So if you think about this, guests are always on your show, and we always struggle with getting them to share. So I use this to automate, like, write a thank you note for my guests, write the blog post, write a newsletter, write everything. And then I use that shareable link and go, hey, guest, here's the recording, here's the content, please go share it. And if you don't like what I gave you, here's the magic chat, go write what you need and come up with your own kind of prompt. But like, it now makes your life so much easier. And all we want is more distribution. We want more audience to see us. So this hopefully helps in that regards too.
And if we can do that for our clients, they will love us more.
Exactly, right?
That's the deal. Loving us more. All right, I'm trying to get this thing to display properly. It's not displaying any better. Okay.
I don't even see it.
Oh,
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get.castmagic.io/Greg
Yep.
is the URL. Code Steve100. This is not an affiliate link. This is just going to get you that special bonus, the first month free. And did you say 500 credits extra?
If
in the
you
next
sign up in the next 24 hours, yep.
For 24. So that's going to be through, we'll just say Thursday evening of not even Easter time. It'll be Greenwich Means Time.
Yeah,
whatever that is.
Basically, you got 24 hours, and I will be able to see who signed up with Steve 100, and they've signed up with that code in the next 24 hours. Go like, great, let's give them extra love because you are taking action.
Time to go play. And of course, again, if you're an Academy member, you get 50% off of 12 months, which is an even greater deal. You'll see your promo code inside of the Podcast Editor Academy.
And then the other piece, back to your community, like, you're not alone. So you've got Steve's community, but we also have over 1,000 people in our Slack community. So people are there. It's a great place to find new clients, to talk about yourself. I allow all of that. I run that community as well. But it's also learn about prompting, learning about podcast resources. So if you are an expert, that is a great place to go and say, like, here's my knowledge on things. Like, I want that communication because you are not alone. We run workshops. So it's just not a tool. It's just not a platform. It is his entire model of how do we work better together.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thank you, Greg, for coming on. I want to thank all of you for watching. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mike. Jane. And then I think Joe is here as well. They say thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg. Thank you both. And, of course, Mike says, thanks, Greg. I like big show notes, and I cannot lie. That's it. Drop the mic.
There you go.